Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Medlock radio show, the Medlock Post radio show, and opening up with America the Beautiful, a little bit in the background there. And we'll just get her to fade out a little bit. Welcome to today's program. I will try to control myself today. Today's program is something totally different than what I had planned to do. This is where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. And the things that have happened in the last 36 hours is almost mind-boggling. And it should be to everybody. Now, we did have a good thing come out of it. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Second Amendment, and we'll get into that. But I guess I better do my disclaimer before I get going out of there. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and are not necessarily the views and opinions of Spreaker.com, its corporations, affiliates, or other podcast streaming services. So there. We don't want anybody getting in trouble for what I say. These are my views, and we just ask that you listen to them and hopefully learn from them, or cause you to think and start asking questions. Wait a minute, that was a good point. I hope you're saying that. This is June 23rd, 2022. It is a Thursday. The world keeps spinning. The sun rises and sets still on America and the rest of the world. A lot of things are moving forward. But there is an element that is trying to stop those things from moving forward. But let's start with the opening monologue today. This was sent to me by a good friend, Larry, and I almost said Larry Biddle, and he's a top-notch educator. When he was a principal of a high school, we developed a new system, and it was phenomenal what it did. And we'll get him on the show one day and talk about his education outlook and policies that were just sent the students in the right direction, thinking for themselves, understanding their talents and abilities, and where to go in life. Well, that's unheard of, isn't it? But this is a speech, and you can pull this up on YouTube. And it's Julie Hartman. She is a senior speech at Harvard University. She graduated this year. This was on May 3rd, 2022. And each house, sorority or fraternity house or whatever it is, picks a person to speak, and they do that at the Harvard Chapel. And if I'm going to read that, I need to pull it up so I can read it. And this is Julie Hartman, May 3rd of this year. Listen closely to her comments. She's a little agitated here. All right. Quote, "If we lose freedom in America, there is no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth." President Ronald Reagan. I wish I could play the recording, but I can't at this point. Last spring break, I went on a trip with 100 other Harvard undergraduates to Israel. It was one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life, and I will always be grateful to Harvard for that. I recall the trip with all in joy, but a certain moment rattled me. Our group attended a Shabbat dinner at a Tel Aviv synagogue. The rabbi proclaimed, "Welcome to Israel. You are all here from America, the best country in the world." He paused, but not a single person clapped. The Israelis stared in disbelief. Americans are the freest, most privileged people on earth. Yet many of us are ashamed to show even the tiniest trace of national pride. Why? And again, this is Julie Hartman from Harvard. Back to her. Because we Americans of recent generations have been swaddled in prosperity and security, and in consequence have become ungrateful for the blessings we enjoy. It requires vigorous athletic imagination for most of us to consider the basic, brutal realities that much of the world experiences daily. Even worse, we have consumed a cultural diet that reduces America to its ugliest moments and dismisses its noble ideas and accomplishments as jingoism. Continuing, this nation saved the world from global catastrophe 3 times in the 20th century. This nation has grown to treat racial, ethnic, and religious minorities with equality and respect compared to other places and times on earth. We must not lie to ourselves or to one another by denying that a large reason that we remain silent is that we see personal and professional advantages in doing so. We are ashamed to be American. The shame should be on us. The people who excoriate a religion live in a society where their freedoms are based on teachings in the Bible. Many who say that the nuclear family is antiquated grew up in 2-parent households. Those who condemn the police as oppressive still summon them when they are in danger. And too many use their right to free speech to advocate suspending it for all who disagree with them. What a litany of dishonesty. This is Julie Hartman from Harvard. We are using our privilege to undermine the very system that has given us that privilege. America, despite its failings, is the last great stand on earth. We must speak up against this now, or our civilization will face a somber reckoning, as President Reagan said, "If not us, who? If not now, when?" Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, those are powerful words. And guess what? The students in the audience did not applaud when she finished. She just stood there looking at them. They should have been a standing ovation for her. Now, let me read some comments that were left on YouTube under this. A Dr. Nick Bath said this: "Bravo," and 3 exclamation marks. "I am a physician. I am appalled by the cowardice of almost all my colleagues who have continued to remain silent on COVID management and suppression of views that oppose the accepted scientific consensus. You have shown in this speech in an environment hostile to all these topics greater courage than most of us, and corporately the medical and scientific community has a much larger podium than a small church at Harvard University. Censorship and propaganda are the penultimate tools to achieve tyranny, medical, political, and cultural. The spoon-fed elites at our universities are the most culpable, useful idiots by failing to openly encourage opposing views. You call them out for shaming the rest of us into silence. Your views are essential for our freedoms to persist. Godspeed." Nick Bath. Another one, and no name. "I came from Cuba, just 90 miles south of Florida, and I approve her message. I'm very worried about some of the politics, anti-American propaganda, and the media these days. Be thankful to be in America, protected." Another one, "A speech that needs to be heard by every American." "As a once proud graduate of Harvard, the school has given me very little to be proud of lately, as it constantly and consistently embraces any and all things woke and politically correct. A school that produced generations of leaders is now producing lemmings who have trouble thinking for themselves. Julie Hartman and her speech on May 3rd changed that. She was brilliant. I am again beaming proudly thanks to her. Go, Julie. Keep up the awesome work." And one more. I know you say you're spending a lot of time, but making a point here. "As a survivor of the Holocaust and later a veteran of the United States Armed Forces, I well recall the widespread admiration and gratitude that many millions of people around the world felt toward the USA. Most Americans did so as well. The denigration, insults, and defamation that has grown in the past several decades has been disgusting, especially in emanating from those who have benefited the most from the freedoms and opportunities provided by this country. Shame on them, and warm congratulations and gratitude to you." Talking about Lisa Hartman. So this is waking people up, and that's why I wanted to do this on my monologue today, to wake you up, to let you know you are not alone. We are not alone. We, the people, are a majority. I do believe a majority in America. The media wants us to think that we are just a small minority and we should just forget everything and just accept it as it is and what the government's going to do to us and just shut up and accept it. Well, guess what? I, for one, am not going to do that. I'm not. And I hope you join me. We got to stand up and speak up. All right. Reverse brainstorming. People that know me know that I talk about this quite a bit. Most of you have probably sat in a class, in a training situation, in work, a lot of situations, and you brainstorm. And you break up into groups and you talk about a specific subject or project. How can we do this good, or how can we improve this situation or product or whatever? And that's what corporations do. They put a team together and say, okay, take your strength in this and this and this, bring it to the table and start discussing. Here's a project. Here's something that we want to create that will produce, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There I am with et cetera's again. But anyway, I got to stop that. So you sit there, okay, this is great. Brainstorming, reverse brainstorming, is just the opposite. And I've used this many times in my classes and training classes. What can we do to make it bad? What can we do to destroy something? What can we do to make our sales and our corporation tank? Just go down. What can we do so our business will go out of business? You see the point? You kind of reverse engineer something. And this has been done in many situations. It's called different things, but I call it reverse brainstorming. I'm saying this because I'm going to read you some things that have come out in the last 24 hours from Joe Biden and others in his administration. The FDA this morning bans Juul, Juul, that smoking thing. I can't remember which. I'm not a smoker, so they were banned, and they cannot sell their product in America anymore. Now, this also goes in line with the administration wanting the cigarette companies to take all or almost all nicotine out of cigarettes because it kills people. Nicotine is addictive and it kills people. At the same time, they are doing zero nada at the border as tens of thousands of pounds of fentanyl are being brought into this country and killing people. So the point there is this administration does not want to address any real issues. Joe Biden came out yesterday about gas prices being so high, blaming the gas station owners. Really? You need to lower your prices now, he said. And he said now twice. The gas station owners? Are you kidding me? Have you ever looked at what their markup is on gasoline at a gas station? And you're probably sitting there going, oh, it's probably 10, 15, 20 cents a gallon. It is 1 to 2 cents a gallon. 1 to 2 cents. They don't set the price. The manufacturers are sitting there. They've got their production cost, which is over half of their cost. Then you have the processing cost, and it's different from state to state. California has the worst demands. That's why the gas prices are highest out there. But you have all these different mixes they have to make, and that costs money. You got to have equipment to do that, special equipment. And so he's sitting there blaming the gas station owner. Next, he's going to blame you and me for consuming it. Well, he's already done that. Stop using fossil fuels. We need to immediately switch over to green energy. What green energy? What? Where? Where? What are you talking about? Oh, but we got to stop drilling today if we're going to save this planet, and we got to go to green energy. Well, I guess we go back to 1700s, right? Burn wood for fire and cooking and all that stuff. Anyway, so these are things that he's throwing out there, and doesn't make any sense on a real economic basis. Now, there was a big meeting with the oil companies today in Washington, and of course Biden wasn't going to go. His energy secretary was going to meet with him. I hope they gave her a snootful. Biden says, produce more, produce more. Well, you have limited what we can drill and what we can produce. So if you want us to produce more, take off the regulations and all that stuff. And then he's come out and proposed this 90-day federal gas tax hike holiday. Now, the federal gas tax is 18.4 cents per gallon. Bet you didn't know that, did you? Well, it's 18.4 cents. Who pays that? The oil companies. When they produce it, they get charged by the government. Now, of course, they pass that on to the consumer. Now, if that holiday, and this is all a sham, it's just for show. Congress is laughing at him about it. This isn't going to lower prices. This isn't going to do anything. So as you look at everything that the Democrat socialists are going after, guns, free speech, gas, cigarettes. Also, the list is long. What they're going at to try to destroy. People are now calling it, and these are experts, not me, Biden is at war with America. Now, I believe that. The Democrat socialists do not like America. They want to change it. They want to bring her down and then let the globalists come in and take over. That's where we are, folks. And this is my theory. I've expressed this to many, many people. And I started this in 2020. And the election was going hot and heavy. Excuse me. And the polls were showing Trump with a good lead. And everybody was expecting him to win, except the mules. But the Democrats, under Obama, started the fundamental transformation of America. And that was to bring her down. So Obama was in there for 2 terms. We had a lot of economic crisis, had a recession, housing bubble, which had really started right before he took office, but totally mismanaged it. Spending like crazy. And so, and they were taking things a step at a time. The big thing they did was the Affordable Care Act, which is Obamacare, that the government tried to take over the medical system in America. And in a lot of ways they have. A lot of hospitals have closed. A lot of doctors just retired and said, I was going to retire in a couple of years. I'm not going to mess with that. I would have to spend thousands of dollars to update my equipment and my computer systems, and that's coming out of my retirement. And they retired. And then here comes Hillary Clinton, who's the appointed one to be the next president of the United States, and who will continue to carry on the fundamental transformation of America. Well, they wanted to do it in kind of a slow process. They didn't want to panic anybody. They didn't want the big pushback for what was going on. And she lost to Trump. And they panicked. They knew that he was going to win. They were looking at the polls, their internal polls and everything. And they started this campaign, the Russian hoax, and other things to just go after him. And they thought that he would be like the rest of the Republicans. He would just back down and go away before the election took place. Well, Trump's a fighter. I don't care what you think about him. He's a fighter. And he stood up and said, this is a lie. This never happened. And he fought it. He fought the whole 4 years he was in there. And he's still fighting. They're still going after him. He's a burr in their bonnet, and they can't get rid of him. So the Democratic Socialists realized we've got to get Trump out of there one way or the other. And then, of course, Joe Biden became the candidate. So we've got to win the election in 2020. Well, they did. And I'm not going to sit here and debate it was stolen or whatever. I think we're beyond that point. So he wins the election. This is what their mindset became. We have to fast track everything now. We're 4 years behind. We've lost a whole lot of ground with America first. The economy is rocking and rolling. Why do you think the pandemic happened? The economy was rocking and rolling. Matter of fact, I was making predictions before the pandemic hit that the Republicans would take 100 seats back from the Democrats in the House in 2020. The pandemic changed all that. But they knew we have to get back into the White House and fast track everything. Day one in the White House, how many executive orders were signed? Over 30. Most of them undoing Trump's work. And then in the next few days, it ended up like 70 something. Unheard of. So this is why you're seeing list after list after list after list after list of things that are under attack by the Democratic Socialists. They're fast tracking everything. Just like this gun control bill that we're going to talk about, that the 14 senators, Republican senators, voted to move it forward, to take it out of committee and let it go to the floor for a full vote. It was done in the middle of the night. All the negotiating was behind closed doors. People only had 1 hour to read the bill. And the other 36 Republicans are screaming and yelling in the Senate and the House. I'm screaming and yelling. I was fit to be tied yesterday when I saw this. Those 14 Republicans, and I'm going to name them here in a second, voted against America. They voted against the Constitution, they voted against the Second Amendment, and they voted against freedom. And those 14 Republicans I will now call the GOP socialists, because that's what they have become. They are Roy Blunt, Missouri; Richard Burr, North Carolina; Shelley Moore Capito, West Virginia; Bill Cassidy, Louisiana; Susan Collins, Maine; John Cornyn, Republican, Texas; Joni Ernst, Iowa; Lindsey Graham, South Carolina; Lisa Murkowski, Alaska; Rob Portman, Ohio; Mitt Romney, Utah; Mitch McConnell, Kentucky; Tom Tillis, North Carolina; and Todd Young, Indiana. And I can tell you what, right now, they are being hammered by their constituents. Being hammered. Tulsi Gabbard still claims to be a Democrat. She ran for to be their presidential candidate in 2020, and they booted her out so fast because she had common sense. She said, quote, "Too many Democrats and Republicans talk a good game about civil liberties and claim to stand for freedom. But when it comes time to vote on protecting our civil liberties and right to privacy, they vote on the side of the power elite and against liberty." Absolutely. Now, if you haven't seen it, this is what Joe Biden said today. No, that's about the court ruling. So let's change gears for a minute and talk about the Supreme Court ruling today. It was a case in New York City. They had a law that says if you want to carry a gun, you have to prove that you are being threatened, that you just can't go out and get a gun and have it in your home because the Second Amendment says you can bear arms. You have to prove your case that you need a gun. Well, the Supreme Court said no, no, no. And the key word, I guess, was proper cause to do the gun. In this case, petitioners and respondents agree that ordinary, law-abiding citizens have a similar right to carry handguns publicly for their self-defense. We too agree and now hold consistent with the Heller and McDonald that the Second and 14th Amendments protect an individual's right to carry a handgun for self-defense outside the home. Justice Clarence Thomas wrote in the court's opinion, referring to two previous gun cases, because the state of New York issues public carry licenses only when an applicant demonstrates a special need for self-defense, we conclude that the state's licensing regime violates the Constitution. Thomas noted that the state statute does not define what proper cause means and that courts had ruled that the standard was met by people who showed a special need for protection. Well, guess what? The Supreme Court said the Second Amendment rules and that you cannot limit them carrying a gun. They don't have to prove why they need it. Big, huge win, just the opposite of what is happening in this gun control bill. Just the opposite. And the left is going nuts on this ruling. And to show you how nuts they've gone, Joe Biden reacted to Thursday's Supreme Court ruling, striking down a New York gun law by saying the ruling which will ultimately allow more people to legally carry guns. This ruling contradicts common sense and the Constitution and should deeply trouble us all. My question to Joe is, did you just hear what you said? Did you hear what you just said? Common sense prevailed here. And we should be deeply troubled that people can carry a gun, that the Constitution has been upheld and contradicts common sense. Any laws by government restricting our rights is not common sense. And he says, which will ultimately allow more people to legally carry guns. Does he hear what he's saying? Oh, they can carry them legally now. Well, what about the criminals that don't care about the laws, that carry illegally? They're not addressing any of this. Crazy, crazy, crazy. This legislation can be abused. Oh, I just skipped ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, this has my blood going, folks. And I'm kind of taking a breath here and slowing down. The Freedom Caucus released a statement today, if I can find it. The Freedom Caucus, here it is. This is from the Freedom Caucus today. In the House of Representatives, this is a quote, the Freedom Caucus issued a statement opposing any legislation, including the new Senate bill that includes unconstitutional red flag laws, an incentive for states to impose backdoor universal background checks. Red flag laws permit the preemptive seizure of firearms from Americans without due process by allowing any person to report a gun owner to law enforcement and petition for the confiscation of that individual's firearms, even before the gun owner has an opportunity to defend themselves. As a result, experts have found that 1/3 of confiscation orders were wrongly issued against innocent Americans, and it often takes a tremendous effort to overturn. This is from the Freedom Caucus. They continue. These laws are ripe for abuse as they give government the power to decide who is deemed mentally fit to own a firearm based on the say-so of any accuser, and that should concern every American, as some Democrats have already signaled their intention to use red flag laws to target gun owners based on their political beliefs. And yes, that is true. They have openly expressed that. Back to the Freedom Caucus. Furthermore, studies have found that states' red flag laws have had no significant impact on murder and suicide rates or the murder of people killed in mass shootings. The Freedom Caucus noted that an existing practice known as the Baker Act allows for the temporary detention of people believed to be dangerous, like the Ramos kid that shot up Uvalde, Texas. The Freedom Caucus also warned that the Senate bill could include provisions to criminalize private firearms transfers by enacting backdoor universal background checks or established federal grant programs designed to incentivize states undermining the Second Amendment. The House Freedom Caucus is urging Republican senators to use every procedural tool at their disposal to ensure members of Congress are granted sufficient time to read the bill. To read the bill, folks. This was done in the middle of the night. We're getting tired of Congress doing things behind closed doors, and then all of a sudden there's a bill. It's beyond me. I think it goes back to what Julie Hartman said, and we didn't speak up. Well, folks, it's not too late to speak up. Now you're saying, Richard, we can call all 14 of those Republican socialists and beg them, implore them not to vote for the bill on the Senate floor when it comes up. Well, folks, the horses have left the barn. It's too late to close the barn door. They voted to take this out of committee and take it up for full vote. And all you need to pass this bill is 51 votes. And let's say none of these 14 decide, well, we really don't need to vote for it. The Democrats had 50 votes plus the vice president's vote to give them 51. So we can go in and say, oh, we didn't vote for that bill. And that would be a lie, because you did vote for this bill to bring it out of committee in the middle of the night behind closed doors. Now, I'm not going to take the time to go through everything that's in this bill. You can look that up online. I've gone over a few things. But one of the things I read, if somebody had a gun and somebody in their family, say a cousin or an uncle or somebody, wanted to buy his gun, under this law, you would have to do a federal background check before you could sell it. See, now you don't have to. And that irks the Democrats, the anti-constitutional socialists, to death. That guns can just pass hands in your house. Now you do a bill of sale, yeah. They're trying to squash this thing. And this is another reason we cannot let them do away with the filibuster in the Senate and pack the Supreme Court. That cannot happen. The Constitution would be totally lost at that point, as far as D.C. is concerned. I ran across some of my papers the other day. There's an article from last fall. It's a great article. And it was, do we still have a Constitution? That was the name of the article. It was an interesting read. I might have to do it on one of the shows going forward. Let me read John Cornine's quote on this thing. Quote, "Today we release text of our bill to make attacks like the one in Oviedo less likely while protecting the Second Amendment. I am proud that this mental health and school safety bill places no new restrictions on law-abiding gun owners." What a piece of baloney, Senator Cornine. This will do nothing to stop mass murders. It will do nothing to take guns out of criminals and our illegals. It will do nothing but restrict Americans that will be attacked for using their freedom of speech against another politician, their neighbor, or whatever. This is sad. Now, I see that our time is just about up. And I want to end with a quote. And this is Neil A. Maxwell. He's an educator. This quote's from 1978. I've read many of his books. He's a brilliant man, was a brilliant man. He has passed away. He was an educator. He was a deep thinker. And sometimes I've had people tell me, oh, I start reading his books and I have a hard time understanding. Yeah, he's a deep thinker. But this one, you don't have to be a deep thinker to understand. Quote, decrease the belief in God and you increase the number of those who wish to play at being God by being society's supervisors. Such supervisors deny the existence of divine standards, but they are very serious about imposing their own standards on society. Unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the program. So that's the Medlock Post radio show for today. Thank you.